Hey, hey, hey. What's up, guys?
Hello, hello.
Man, I tell you what, I'm slow moving today. Slow moving, fellas. I got out here, and I'm telling you, it took me 20 minutes. Normally took me 5 minutes because I'm having to walk like I'm in a wheelchair over here. Oh, well, how
Well, it's good to see you up and about, though. I mean,
semi
if
up and about.
if people are following your other channel, you've been posting some updates, and the one from yesterday, you were out taking a little bit of a walk, checking on things. So, or
Yeah,
was
I've been
that
trying to
today?
walk for a little bit because I don't think it's good for me to sit still.
Well, according to my watch, that's not good for any of us. It keeps yelling at me. You've been sitting too long.
Yeah, well, it's been a rough few days. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think what happened was my last surgery. I think I was hurting so bad going into that surgery that anything was a relief for me once I had it done.
Hmm.
But with this surgery, I was actually, other than having some pain in that leg that would flare up pretty bad from time to time, I actually wasn't in terrible shape. So I guess that's kind of, I guess that's kind of what's got me is the fact that now this TV's not wanting to work right. The fact that you know I could have just not had the surgery and I'd be walking okay. I mean, I wasn't walking great, but I've been walking okay. So that's going to bug my OCD if I don't fix that.
Well, I mean, sometimes you got to go through a little pain to get it better in the long run. So hopefully that's the case. Minor setback for a little bit, but also glad to see that you've looks like you and a lot of people around you, Coghill and such, made it through okay. But I know you guys had some tornadoes coming through that area, like a lot of people. Big old line from down south on up through Missouri and Tennessee. There's a lot of nasty weather blowing through yesterday. So hopefully everybody that's out there, if you were in the path, hopefully you're doing okay. And I know there's some serious damage out there. So hopefully none of our viewers, but thinking about the people who were.
Oh yeah. I mean, they had me nervous. I ain't gonna lie. There was a couple of times that I was like, we done told the kids, "Hey, get your shoes on, because we're not gonna stay here and ride this out." Yeah, they say get into the smallest room. If you can't get out, okay, whatever. But yeah, I'm not testing. We built that house on a budget. I'm not gonna expect that bathtub to protect our whole family. So we were sitting on go just in case. Which I'm going to push up. I've got to get me a storm shelter. I have dodged a bullet so many times. We've got to get us an actual, like a legit shelter made, so that we don't have to worry about that. But yeah, it was pretty rough. The thing about where I live is there's a lot of families that like, let's say they've owned land through the years, and so you've got like 10 family members that live on this, like, 50, 60 acres of land. They just split it up amongst them from back in the days of farming or whatever. And so there's a couple of neighborhoods where it was just this one family. That's like their extended family is who's on that road. And every one of them that got messed up are like uncles and cousins to each other. So it's like the whole family's basically been, gutted for a little while as far as their housing arrangements and stuff. So
Yeah.
definitely not something I hope I ever, I don't want that on for me to have to go through that if I can, because that would be awful. Whew. But I took my medicine like 2.5 hours ago. If I start acting too loopy, Steve, you feel free to mute me or whatever. So I had to break down and start taking it. It was killing me. The pain was driving me crazier than the meds were. So far,
Yeah.
sleepy though.
I'm going to try switching headphones real quick. I'm getting some weirdness from my Bluetooth ones.
Do I need to? I mean, I got to turn mine on.
No. Well, I mean, that might help, but I'm also getting these connecting and disconnecting to something else.
Oh. Well, I said I could. Did I not charge them? Oh.
Much better.
Hello?
Hey.
Yeah. Brian's asking, does a tornado really sound like a train coming through the living room? Well, It sounds like a tornado. Sounds like a tornado to me. The closest I've been to them was when I was back when I used to work with Asplin. I was out in the middle of we were in South Alabama. I was out in the middle of the woods, and it was one of those days to where it was unseasonably hot in that spring. And anytime it's like really hot here in the spring in Alabama, you know that there's potential. And so this was before smartphones or, any kind of early warning or whatever. And I look up and all I see coming down through the woods across the power line right away towards me, because I'm running this big heavy machine, so I really can't see anything. But you start feeling it, like the vibrations, and there's pine trees just spinning, coming at me, and I'm like, holy crap, So I jump off the machine, I leave it running, and get back, in the truck and head out. But I've seen that one up close and personal. But the worst part is at night, because they do howl. Like the stuff, I guess when they pick up debris or whatever, it does make a real loud roaring sound. Like when they're, going across, you could tell when they're hitting a house or when they're going through woods and it's breaking sticks and stuff. Because it is literally looks like you're taking your weed eater and going in through a big pile of grass where that thing hits. It just twists it to be able to see some of these trees twisted like they were drinking straws or something. And the trees will be, 16 inches is unreal. The one that we worked a few years ago over in Tuscaloosa, where it crossed the pavement over there, it ripped a stretch of pavement up. Like it was dirt where the pavement was supposed to be. Like how somehow or another the wind got under it and just shoop up went the pavement. So I don't want to play with a hurricane or a tornado, either one. Tornado. Mm-hmm. The thing about tornadoes is they can't tell you where it's going to go until it's almost there. That's the problem with those things. They change directions. But typically ours are going to come from like where I live. They're going to, if it goes through Selma, typically it's going to end up somewhere close to my house. So if you ever hear them talking about a tornado headed towards Selma, when it gets through with Selma, it's be coming through here. The two that went by here yesterday. Let me pull my maps up here. I'll give you an idea. They weren't that far away from me. So
yeah, there's a YouTube channel I subscribe to. It's like Ryan Hall. He does whenever there's a major weather event nationwide, he goes live and he has a team of storm spotters he works with. He's got a meteorologist he works with, and they do pretty good coverage. And so, yeah, I was watching that in Mississippi, and I actually noticed Cog Hill used them yesterday when he was kind of keeping an eye. They show some pretty good stuff. So I know a lot of places are losing local news and reporting, and so it's not a bad channel to subscribe to. Some of these YouTube guys do a pretty good job covering weather alerts all over the U.S. So.
Yeah, with this guy that we got James Spann, and the joke is if he takes his suspenders off, the weather's done got bad because he wears suspenders. But like when it gets really tedious, like he takes them off. But we watched him most of the night last night because he's just one of those guys that will come on there and he'll stay on there till the end. You know what I mean? I don't know how he sleeps any at all. He probably doesn't. But he was on there yesterday morning talking about it, and he was on there last night when I went to bed. So
yeah,
but I haven't been sleeping good anyway. So,
but yeah,
where'd my maps go?
Of course, the other part of that question was why do Southerners know that it sounds like what a train coming through the room sounds like?
Well, we live near a lot of railroad tracks too, so that's a problem. If you live near railroad tracks, you can't listen. You can't go by sound.
It's a joke.
No, this is legitimately. Most all of us live near.
So why would you? Everybody says it sounds like a freight train coming through your living room. The question is, why do you know what a freight train coming through your living room sounds like? That's kind of a joke. But anyway,
but yeah, here's let's see if I can get it to pull up here. Just to give you an idea, this is where I'm at right here. All right, those tornadoes that came through. One of them that went through like between Plantersville and Stanton up in here. And there was another one that was over here around 15 and 16, which is right there's, what is that? That should be 15 right there. Wow, it showed me the numbers. There's 16. Yeah. So the other one came through right in through here. So not really that far from where we are, but this is like an alley from up here at Highway 22 down to Billingsley High School below us. This is like a little tornado alley for our area. And Cog Hill, like I said, Cog Hill doesn't live far from me, so they were sweating it too. I saw where Jason put a video out. I haven't talked to him, but I saw where he put a video out that they were spending probably more time in their shelter than they did outside it last night. Which we need to get one. I've wanted one, but it's just been one of those things that, there's been times where I've had to prioritize. And I know that's a big priority, but we just still get in the car and go somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I've been blessed usually I've had a basement, so it's not perfect, but it's a lot more safer than a main level home. So, anyway, so, I mean, most people know you've been healing. There haven't been a whole lot going on.
And I am on muscle relaxers and pain medication. So there's that. I see Brian saying I'm all drugged up. I am a little foggy, Brian, but, I didn't want to take them. But I'm actually taking them less frequent than they wanted me to. But at some point, I just had to decide I was going to tap out because it was too much. But I'm hoping tomorrow morning I'll wake up and things will be better. That's what I keep telling myself.
So I've been feeling better this week, been a little bit busy, but I have been getting out here and working with the Omni One, the 5 watt UV laser. And it's, let me where I can find it here. A couple of cool things that I found out right away. And now I'm not going to be able to find them. Oh, see if I can reach it.
And then you turned right around and lost them after you found them out.
Yeah. No. So as typical with my reviews and tests, I like to work with this 3mm Baltic birch. And so this was the cut test. And of course, with the UV, you don't play with power. You play with your speed and your Q pulse, your frequency, and then, number of passes. And so I did find a setting to be able to cut through the Baltic birch. And what's really cool, as a lot of people have pointed out, is the edges are just so clean.
Yeah, it doesn't really burn it per se. So, it just makes it disappear.
Yeah, well, I mean, so there's the difference between, if I can get it to focus on that, clean and cut. And then just for example, this is, like a diode. You get that kind of dark edge to it. So really impressed with how clean that is. And then the other thing is that it's not, there's of course no staining on front or back. So it is a little bit slower, cutting out than other, like a 60 watt CO2 or a 40 to 60 watt diode. But if you can see on this grid, maybe not, it's really hard to show it.
But if you're cutting stuff like leather patches, like actual leather patches or something, I'm telling you that thing rocks.
If you're cutting fine detail, that's what I was trying to get at. Is this is leaving just, I mean, there's 0.5 millimeter or less of distance between these, and it's leaving that wood there, and it's not leaving a mark. So if you have some fine detail things you need to cut out, whereas you might have to clean them up with sandpaper, or if you tried to do that, if you try to have too thin of a spot, it might char and burn away. This would be a case where cutting it out with this laser, might be beneficial. So it's great at marking almost anything. Cutting, I'm doing a little more playing with on where it's beneficial and where it's not over another laser. But you can also mark on fruit.
So you had to use their orange setting just because they included it
in a banana. Now the interesting thing about this one is it's been darkening over. I did this about 15 minutes ago, and when I first did it, it was still really light, but it's almost like engraving and slightly bruising it to make that mark.
Are you going to be taping that to your wall?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, maybe I'll just take them to work. Throw them on there. But yeah, no, it's a cool machine. I like you say, leather's another really great item I haven't gotten through. I've got some thicker leather, I've got some thinner leather, I've got some of the synthetic leather. I'm going to be testing some of those. I I hit up Dollar Tree and got some random glass and like porcelain stoneware type things. Going to be doing slate, variety of metals and such. So hopefully, I didn't get as much time on it as I'd hoped this weekend, but hopefully early this week we'll get a lot of that testing out there and share some of that information with people as far as what I'm finding. So yeah, I mean that's kind of what's been going on out here, but more to come on other things. Wife's been giving me some projects as well, things that I'm hoping will fit into some CNC/laser projects, and we may have a little more snow this week, but in general, it's kind of turning towards warmer, so it's going to be easier to run the bigger machines out here without losing all my warm air. So we'll get some things going.
Todd says that this is the first time watching us live. Sorry, Todd. It has to be the time that I'm on pain medication. But he's been following for over a year, newbie and owner of an Omni One. So there you go, Steve. There's somebody else that's going to be hitting you up for settings. You'll have to contribute because this is the one machine that I will tell you there is so many materials that it's possible. This is one machine that I will be, grabbing some settings from here and there and building me out a massive a library for speeds and feeds, because there's just so many things that you can do, as well as there are a lot of variables too. Is you can take one material and get like 5 different results that are all good results. So
yeah, and at first when I was doing my engraving tests on Baltic birch, I was getting a little concerned because I was like, okay, it was real soft, and I'm like, okay, it's got to do better than this. So that's where, unfortunately, having 3 different things that you can adjust, you kind of have to dial in one and then play with the other. But sometimes then you need to go back to the first one, and it's a bit of a shell game. It's not just 2 variables that's going to have a couple quick grids. So yeah, it does take some time, but yeah, I think both you and I are be looking at our libraries and sharing them out, and hopefully build something up that people can utilize. But as with anything, it's just a ballpark.
Jim's asking if he tried the tumblers on the Omni One. I haven't, but my reasoning for that is mostly because with a diode and CO2, you're gonna do tumblers so much faster. Yes, you probably could get more detail with the Omni, but at a cost of really, really slow speeds. So I just don't think I don't have any jobs that I would need that much resolution, because you're not going to really be able to show it on material anyway to make it worth taking all that extra time. Even though sometimes you may have a better, it's going to be more crisp. It may be, but at what expense? You know what I mean? Because if it's something you're just working on for a project for yourself and it takes 3 days, who cares? But if it's something you're trying to make money off of and you got jobs waiting, then you may not want to go to that machine for that. So that's me personally. Like I said, other people may disagree.
So between their stated spot size, I think they state like a 0.02, and I think that's with the 70 millimeter lens. With the 150, most people are testing it as 0.04 ish, give or take. So your spot size is like half or less than the best diode spot size. So yeah, I'd agree with you on that. It can do a good job, and doing like anodized cards and things like that, it's decent. But you get a full, something bigger, it's definitely going to take twice as long in running that. So the other thing is, they don't send a good rotary with this. You got to kind of, and even their original, their kind of their baseline one is smaller, and it's meant for like rings and small bands and such. So you got to like step it up to their D80 or even the bigger one. They've got an even bigger one than that. So that's probably why you're not seeing a lot of it from it. So
yeah, like I said, I just happened to have that one from when I had the Com Marker B4, and it works with this one, which was a pleasant surprise.
Sure.
Without having to, I didn't have to make any adapters or anything like that. It worked with it out of the box. So, Viking Wind is asking, do you lose a lot of detail coming from a 10 to a 20 watt? I figured I'd put this one right behind that one because we were kind of touching on that one already. Yeah. So I'll let you go for it there.
It's going to depend on the material you're working with. I think in general, if you're doing things on wood or more kind of natural material, you're not going to notice a huge difference. You know, your spot size is maybe going up 20% in size. And so it's not going to, you're not going to see that in, you know, your vector engravings or your cutting and whatnot. Now, if you're doing, you know, small business cards, and you're trying to do like a photo engrave like this, you might see a little bit less detail. But there again, it's going to depend on if you're maximizing out the spot size, because a lot of people, even on these, they to really get the spot size going, it takes so long. So a lot of people will kind of find the happy medium between that looks good enough, and so you're already probably reducing the resolution. So this would be about the only area where you're going to maybe notice it.
Yeah. Yeah, because most mediums aren't going to take the higher resolutions, especially fibrous material like wood. It's only going to, you're only going to get so many like LPIs worth of, you know, quality out of it when you start where it actually hits the material. Me personally, I don't think there's that big of a change between a 10 and a 30 watt on diodes, especially if you get one of the ones that's switchable, so that you can, you know, if you wanted to do more detail, you could turn some of the diodes off. But I've done testing with, you know, 10 compared to a 20, 20 compared to a 30. And most 99% of what I do, either machine would be perfect. Very rarely, like if it's a photo and I'm doing it like on, you know, some type of, like you said, anodized material, or maybe a mirror or something like that, where I can get that little extra detail, it might matter. But I would rather have the more power to get jobs done a little faster than that little bit of maybe detail being lost.
Yeah. So Tim's asking, any initial thoughts of the X-Tool metal fab? Do you guys have any plans to test it out? So I've been asked this quite a bit by people, and yeah, even X-Tool asked me, hey, do you want to do like a reaction video on this? And I tend to shy away from those because it feels too salesy, but I may put one together just to kind of say, okay, here's what I know, and here's what I'm thinking of it. Just to kind of get that out there for people. I think it's cool. I think it's one of those things I love to kind of like tinker and play with new tools, to kind of see how they work and see what their potential might be. But I don't have an immediate like business case for it that I know how it would work into it. I've stayed away from metalworking things in this shop because, I mean, all the wood and dust creating items that I have, that doesn't mix well with traditional metalworking items. Now, this one being, you know, a high powered laser cutter and, you know, a CNC kind of like plasma cutter, a lot of that gets contained. And from that aspect, it's kind of intriguing. The other side of it is it's tied in with their software, which they tend to make it very kind of user and beginner friendly with most of their tools. That's intriguing. Now, how does it actually work with that? Is it truly user friendly and beginner friendly? I don't know. Some of the gotchas, though. There's the laser welder itself that's separate, and there's two different wattages of it, an 800 and a 1200 watt. Either one is going to require 220, and I think the one is like 13 amps. The other one is 20 some amps. So just to run the lower end one, you're going to need a 20 amp. You're going to at least need a 30 amp. A lot of people are saying, well, if you're going to do that, go ahead and just jump up to a 50 amp. So you got to have the power. You got to be able to add that to your shop. Now, the CNC part of it, also, I mean, that thing is not small. It's about 4 foot cubed. So it's going to take up some space. And that might be an issue in your shop area. The other thing that in the fine print is you are going to have to feed this thing nitrogen and or argon. So now you have another consumable with it. So it's not as simple as say, hey, I'm going to upgrade to the X-Tool P2 and drop it on a shelf, plug it into the, whatever wall outlet I have. You got to be able to plan for it and adjust for it. So, so and also if you look at the the similar products that are out there, this is going to be a bit of an investment. I mean, I'm guessing you're talking bare minimum. We're probably in the 5-6K on up for even just some of the stuff. So would I love to test it out? Yes. But even so, I'd have to get an electrician in here or do some of the more wiring myself. And yeah, I'd have to figure out where I'm going to put another CNC size machine in here. So I don't know. We'll see. All X Tools asked me is to do one of their kind of free marketing videos of like a reaction thing. You've probably seen a few of them out there. I keep telling them, like, hey, we get asked on it on this live stream. We talk about it. We share some information about it, but so we'll see.
Well, there's another side of this thing that they're not really nobody's talking about is if you live somewhere like I do, where are you going to source your material? I mean, depending on what kind of material you're using, you can get some thin, like 16th, 8th inch, steel at like Home Depot and Lowe's and places like that. If you have a welding and fabrication shop nearby, because you're going to have somewhere to get the gases, which is going to be like an air gas place, which I've got oxygen and acetylene for my torch that I use. But luckily, my neighbor down the road runs a welding shop, and so he'll get them filled, and I can just swap them out with him, so it's convenient. But if you're not used to, lugging around these bottles with gas in them and taking them and getting them filled and bringing them back, and there's going to be a little bit of material handling with that also. I do want to get me some type of metal cutting CNC once I get my bigger shop. But like you said, to me, putting something in here that's cutting metal, that's just asking for some kind of powder flash bomb to go off or something. There's so much sawdust in these crevices that I'd be afraid to, one little ball of hot molten steel hits the floor and it's like swoosh. So I'm going to stay away from it for now. When I get my new shop, maybe they've reached out to me and asked me about it. And I know I've seen people doing, I don't like reviewing something or talking about something if I can't look at it too. That's a thing that me and you both have talked about is I don't really want to tell you, it's just weird. It's like I'm telling you about a guy. It's like I'm trying to convince you that a guy I've never met is a good guy. I've never met him. So those are just weird videos for me to make. And so, I was just like, I told my X-Tool contact, I'm like, it looks cool. I definitely wouldn't mind playing with it. But like right now I have the space nor the practical use for it. Just like you said, because, I can go to Lowe's and get wood, but I'm gonna have to search around and figure out where to get 1/4-inch plate and stuff like that. And then you got to get it home and get it off the truck because a 4 foot by 4 foot sheet of 1/4-inch plate is going to be kind of heavy.
Well, and from what I was reading, 1/4-inch might be maxing out its abilities.
Yeah, that's what the 1200 is going to be about as thick as you can go.
So
I've been looking at the Langmeyers and stuff like that. So, because to me that seems more what I would use one for, maybe, but I don't know. The jury's still out. I haven't told them I would never take it, but I'm not asking for one either. So,
yeah, it would be a bit of a hassle for me to bring it into the shop and even test it. That being said, I would love to have access to something like this because, I mean, there are some of my designs. You look at some of the like the tea light lanterns; those could easily be converted into a metal design and welded up with this thing. I think there's definitely some cool things there for it. But like you said, it's.
But then you got to get yourself a powder. Then you got to get yourself a powder coating set up.
Yeah, I'm sure the way X-Tool's going, I'm sure they'll come out with that as well. You start
cutting out little tiny pieces of metal, you at least got to be able to powder coat it now. So you're gonna have your own little powder coating oven.
Now, some of the stuff they're integrating into the software for this looks interesting. Like they have their obstacle avoidance kind of stuff. So if they could do that into their laser software as well, and then also like the smart cut where if you're doing a bunch of parallel lines, instead of doing the boxes, it'll go through and kind of hit them at speed in a grid. Some of those things where it could optimize the job program. I like what I'm seeing, what they're developing in the software for this one. So hopefully some of that will bleed over into the laser as well. But yeah, it's We'll see. Like I said, if I get time, I might put together just a simple, because we keep getting asked that question. I keep getting that, so might
Yeah.
be good, but I'm with you. It'll
Well, they
feel
had
weird.
mentioned Vincent had mentioned they were going to have one set up somewhere and have like a show and tell.
I heard. I think it was in the Tennessee area.
So I don't know.
But
I'm still, like I said, I wouldn't mind seeing it. And if I
Mhm.
did get to go see it and play with it, that's one thing. But I just,
Yeah.
like I said, that's not something I see me adding to my shop anytime soon. So,
Yeah.
TM said, appreciates our thoughts. I thought it was a different kind of addition to the ecosystem. Says they're putting lots in the maker space. Strikes me as outside their core. Well, I will tell you this: talking to Jason up there at CES, they're going to broaden their horizon as far as the stuff that they're into. It's all going to be maker themed, but it's going to be, all different kinds of makers per se.
Yep. Yeah,
which I think is neat, but some of the stuff's just a bit of a stretch for me currently. So,
yeah, I think X Tool is, he used the term there, makerspace. They're wanting to provide the tools for any type of making, be it for at home use or a small business. They want to be able to create these tools and do it in a way that helps people get into it. And that's where like I was saying earlier, a lot of their software, and we've said it before, XCS is easy to get into. It's less intimidating to get into. They want to make it more approachable, and I think that's what they're doing with all these. And they want to be able to provide tools outside of just your typical lasers. So yeah, I think it'll be curious. They said they were going to bring out like 7 new products this year, and so now we've seen 2.5. With the apparel printer, now the metal fab, and then the F1 light. I don't know if they're counting that's the one or not.
I don't know if that's counted as a whole new machine or not. It's
so
reiteration, I guess.
So we'll see. But
no, like I said, once I get my shop, then we can talk. But right now, I'm looking at. I do want to eventually get me when I retire. I'm going to have to pick up. Like I want to try to get me some customers, like 2 or 3, just a couple of small ones, where I can do some more repetitious stuff that doesn't require a whole lot of carpentry. So I will be probably getting myself a bigger CO2, like once I have room to put something bigger. And then I'll use it in conjunction with the ones that I have to try to, to keep being able to create content for you guys and stuff. But I will have to pick up a little bit in my real merchandise sales to help pay for my insurance and everything. So, but hopefully I'll have enough room in the new shop to where I can, dedicate space for each one of those things. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go. I'm kind of curious what they got coming out next, because I think we've, other than maybe like some resin. I mean, they've about covered them all. Embroidery, maybe an embroidery machine.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I who knows? It'll be interesting to see what else they branch into. So,
Multicraft's got a question for you. It says, does your shop vac setup keep up with your CNC? He don't know. He don't run it.
It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm using like a 1/4 inch bit and just doing like profile cutting, yeah, it keeps up pretty well. But if I'm doing a surfacing path on like a slab, or even the the MDF top is usually easier because I'm not taking it as deep. But if I'm surfacing a piece of wood and trying to make it flat, and I don't think it has the airflow. And part of that is the dust boot design, and some of it is just the shop vac. Now, hopefully, long term, I'm actually going to move the CNC over this way, and then I'll be able to hook it up to my standard dust collector that way. But the shop vac bit, this over here, is better than nothing, and especially with the Cyclone on it, it does a pretty good job. But it does a lot of it is really more towards the dust boot. It doesn't that design when doing the larger surfacing bits, it just doesn't contain it as well as the other ones. So I think if I swapped it out, and I have been looking at some to change out the dust boot on that one, I think it'll still do okay. But noise wise, power wise, whatnot, I do want to get it on the regular dust collector eventually.
Chill.
David's asking or stating, I hate to admit that I'm not smarter than a 5-year-old, but how does one get into Tinkercad? As far as actually getting into it, it's free. You go to tinkercad.com and you can create an account and start playing. Now, as far as actually learning it, they have some classes built into the software. Otherwise, I've done a few kind of just getting started with Tinkercad, and it's geared more towards, you know, the end result being a 3D print. So I've done some things as simple as this little adapter here, which is basically a square slot, and then there's a bolt slot on a bigger square. It's really just building the box and then extruding the holes through them. But I've also done some stuff with creating you know, like tapered tubes for air extraction and things like that. So you can definitely search Tinkercad on my channel, and that'll hopefully get you at least acquainted to the software and doing some basic things. But it's great because it's free, it's web-based, and fairly simple. But there's some people who do some pretty complex things with it too.
Yeah, somebody was asking a while ago about Mill Mage. Me and Steve saw them over at Workbench Con. They said it would be here soon, and apparently that's Ballard's hearing the same thing. No new updates. So we don't know.
Yeah. Sleepy Hollow is saying had some success with adjusting focus to darken and engrave the wood. Now trying to reduce sanding by masking with wide masking tape. Saw some staking under the tape on filled areas. And then is pre-finish better option over masking tape? I would say yes,
Yes.
anytime you can. The caveat to that might be if you're doing something that needs to be glued up and it needs to be structural, then the glue, depending on what you use, isn't going to adhere to that finish very well. But if you're doing layered stuff, you can usually just rough up the backside, or if you can get one-sided pre-finished stuff, you know, that works well. But yeah, if you can do a pre-finished material that you purchase that way, or even pre-finish it yourself, it's going to make cleanup so much easier because it's usually just, you know, a little bit of alcohol and a rag.
Yeah, I've got some that's pre-finished, but that stuff I've got pre-finished on one side, and then I have the exact same plywood that's like not finished at all. So, but I thought I had that piece the other day that we were playing around with. I don't know if I can get to it. I don't know if I want to try to get to it.
DJS is asking, don't know if it's possible. Do you think Lightburn will ever come out with a thing where you can set up an engrave like on the S1 with 2 points to make the square where the engrave will be? It's not necessarily impossible. I imagine the problem is you got to have a laser that has like closed loop steppers that are going to give feedback for its position anytime it's moved. If you don't have that, anytime you move it, it doesn't know it's going to move, because an open loop stepper doesn't get the positional feedback, and it's just going to think, okay, I need to move these coordinates from where I know I was last. So it's a combination of having the right equipment on the laser as well as in the software. So a lot of your hobby lasers don't have those. So, I mean, they probably could add it, but it's not going to be highly supported yet. But hopefully that's going to become more of a, you're seeing it on more CNC machines, and you'll probably see it on more mid-grade lasers like that.
I'll tell you something that we haven't really talked about much that we saw the other day over at Workbench Con was that little 3D tracing tool that they have for that sharp CNC. Yeah. That was pretty neat. Where you could basically, the contour of the material, you could map it out and it would draw it in the software. That was kind of cool. That would be a neat feature if you could get, you know, lasers and stuff to do that as well.
Yeah. So that's on the Next Wave CNCs. And we talked with Duffy over there, and he's got that. He also just got a new one laser. So I've been, I need to reach back out to him and ask him if he's actually used more of that 3D probing thing, because it'd be fun to have him kind of come on and talk about that a little more. Dennis, I wish I was at 1 million subs, but
What in the world is that? We got another. Hang on, we got
but
one.
I did roll over 20,000 this week. So thanks everyone for subscribing, watching, following, all the things you do to support my channel.
Is that comment on your side? Because I can't.
It might be. I'll take a look.
It won't give me the option to delete it.
So, but yeah, I appreciate everybody, supporting my channel, but both our channels. Definitely started out as just kind of a fun thing to share information, and now it keeps me busier than ever. So,
yeah, you tell somebody to watch my video the other day. I tried to stain it. I cut it out of pre-finished instead of regular, and didn't realize it. And I was like, I'll try to sand it a little bit and see if it'll take stain. Yeah, it didn't. So,
yeah.
Oh, whoop! Dang it. Here we go. Do any of you know of any laser software that lets you change the focus during a job? If you want to cut really deep, several passes. A lot of them now. I think all of Adam Stack's A series now have automatic Z, don't they? They have the A24.
Well, not the original. The original A24 didn't. They have an add-on for it, but yeah, a lot of the newer ones, if they've got addressable Z, like with an autofocus, Lightburn will allow you to set, like adjust your Z so much per. Is it like? I know you can do it so much per pass, or can you set it for a number of passes? I don't remember.
You have to set it for relative, and then you have to tell it. I think they add. I think the going down every other pass. I think that only
it's per pass.
Galvo, isn't it? Or does
no,
it let you per pass?
No, you can do your Z offset, and then you can do your Z step per pass. Now I think with X-Tool and XCS, you can say every so many passes, drop it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and there again, it's as long as you have a Z-axis enabled laser, and usually that's with autofocus, then you can specify each pass drop down so many hundredths of an inch or so many fractional millimeters and such.
Yeah, it's right here where it says Z steps per pass. Right here, that's going to be where you'd have to set that, and you set however many millimeters that you wanted to go, and then you can set the number of passes. So yeah, that's how you would do that if you wanted to walk as you sent the job. So you turned yourself off completely.
Well, that's so they can see the screen. Otherwise, it's a little box. It doesn't show up enough.
Yeah, let me get the other little thing up.
Viking Wind is asking 2 years in diode. What's a good starter CO2?
It depends.
Yeah, it depends on what you're looking for.
I know it's very cliche, but I mean, it really does.
So yeah, it kind of depends on what you're going for. If you're going for a larger working area, or you're just looking at adding the power of a CO2, but still wanting maybe a benchtop unit. There's some good options in both of them. We've both got the X-Tool P2, which you're going to pay a little bit of a premium to, but if you're used to that ecosystem, you want to bring your files right into that. That's really nice. It's also kind of an all-in-one, which has there's some good and bad with that. It's got an included air pump and a water chiller, all that stuff self-contained. You don't have to worry about the external units. However, there are also units that they're tough when they fail. I like having an external air supply that I can have a little more adjustment to. So there's pluses and minuses to that. On the other side, I started out with years ago, I bought a 60 watt generic CO2 laser off of eBay and kind of cut my teeth on that one, and was able to do a lot of upgrades over the years to it. More recently, Ohmtech sent me a 55 watt or a 50 watt. They call it their Maker 25, which is kind of a bare bones, but it's got the larger case. It's got some more depth to it. It comes with an integrated air pump and exhaust fan, but those are things you can bypass and disable and add. So that can be a feature that you might want to look at. But I don't know. There's like I said, it starts out with, what are you looking for? If you're looking for a benchtop unit, the ones we've tried out, like I say, there's the X-Tool P2. Clax also tested the Atom Stack. What was it? The Lightning? No,
Hurricane.
You had the
It's a good machine.
You had the OhmTech Polar 2 as well, which is
the Polar Plus.
Which is an okay machine.
Yeah, and you see what I got. You see what I got back over there now.
Yeah,
I just put it back in line. I'm trying to come up with a good CO2 machine to do my tumblers with, and X Tools just came out with the new RA2 design that flips up and is highly adjustable. And so I've got one of those that's going into that box as soon as I get to where I can move around in the shop without worrying about hurting myself. So
now, one of the caveats to, I think, most of the benchtop machines, the X-Tool P2 included, is if you want any depth, and often if you're going to be doing tumblers with them, you're going to want their riser. Anytime you add that, you better have a pretty good exhaust fan to pull the smoke out. Otherwise, they tend to leak.
It gets drafty.
Yeah. So if you're looking at doing a lot of bigger items, deeper items, and tumblers, you may want to look at more of a cabinet style machine, kind of like the OhmTech that I've been playing with and whatnot. But there again, it takes up a little more space, and you got to have an external chiller and things like that. So there are trade-offs to that. So, it would be if you've got more specific needs, that would definitely help out. And a good place to ask that is in our Laser Engraving Community Facebook group, because then both David and I can chime in, and other people can chime in with their experiences on it and such. So.
Yeah, I will say this: when you start talking about these machines, whether it be the Atom Stack Hurricane, the Polar Plus, the P2, P2S, all of those machines, generally speaking, out of the box, they're set up to do 3mm acrylic sheets, 12x20, or some other sheet material, 12x20. You have to add the risers and the conveyors and all these things to do other things with them. So, even though it may show in the literature, you may see always those tumblers. Just remember, like Steve said, you're going to have that riser to do tumblers to get it the right amount of height. And there's always going to be some retrofitting going on with the bench top machines, because they're trying to keep the price down. And typically they're going to be 45 to 55 watts. I know there's one that's supposed to be coming out here pretty soon. That's the 70 watts, what they're saying. But haven't got my hands on it yet, so don't know for sure. Yeah. But yeah, I did get an email from them though. I was shocked.
How did I come up with my channel name? Well, the whole Vintari name came up back in college. I needed to come up with a username on some system. I don't remember what it was, but I had to come up with a unique name, and it was one of these that everything I was picking, it's like, sorry, name unavailable. Sorry, name unavailable. And so I, the geek side of me that, likes sci-fi and some fantasy stuff, playing around with some Lord of the Rings-esque names and some things like that, started just throwing some things together. And Vintari was one of the ones that finally worked. Well, it worked for that. And then I started using it for other things. And when I was buying a domain name early on, I was like, all right, no one is going to use this. It just kind of grew into kind of what became my moniker. It has zero meaning whatsoever as far as anything outside of that is. It's a completely made up name, but it was unique enough that I was pretty much guaranteed that anywhere that I wanted to have that screen name or that login, I was going to be able to get it. So it's something I've had for almost 30 years now. And so it's kind of,
I think it's there to stay.
Stuck. It's kind of stuck, but
Simple Simon's asking, what is the Facebook group called? There should be links to it in the description of mine or Steve's videos, but it's Laser Engraver community page. It's actually gotten, we should probably rethink the name of it, because it's not just Laser Engraving anymore. It was originally it was, but then, everybody's like, hey, y'all need to get this, y'all need to get that. And then Steve just tempted me with CNCs. Oh, you'd love one if you ever got one. And then I got one and I did. So yeah, we need to call it like, lasers and more, I guess, or something. I don't know, but it's fun stuff to make. We should call it just call it fun stuff to make. It's pretty neat. But it's a bunch of cool folks in there that are willing to help you out if you needing some help or an idea or something.
Yeah. Yeah. We try to pop in there we try not to spam too much of our stuff. If we have a really cool video or something, we might dump it in there, but we encourage sharing, but giving more than you're taking from the group. So, we try to limit the blatant sales pitches and more to like, hey, here's a cool idea, or I'm looking at this, or, stuff like that. The occasional for sale thing from an established member or people sharing videos that are established members, we're good with that too. We're just trying to keep it from being too spammy for everyone.
Yeah, we don't want to be too salesy.
Yeah.
But now I will tell you though, there's this really cool YouTube channel on YouTube now that you should go check out, and you should subscribe to that one because it's a really cool guy, and it's basically the stuff that he does when he's not in his shop. And I've been following him quite a while. It's pretty decent content most days when he's not peeled up. But yeah,
I always get worried about people who talk about themselves in the third person.
Well, I was trying to sales pitch it, man. I don't want him I don't want him to know who I'm trying to send him to go look at. Yeah, I think they'll figure it out though. Hopefully within the next week or so, I can get my mobility back.
Yeah. Yeah, Robbie, I don't know that he want to use up that much plywood.
I could just add like 2 more numbers, I think. They'd just be smaller numbers.
And then just put a times 10 at the end.
How many more days you got? You ain't got that many days left, have you? I mean, it'd be like 6 digits. No, but yeah, I guess it would be 6 digits.
I don't want to know.
We'll just wait until it gets down to 999. I'll mail it to him.
When I start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, that's probably just going to be a freight train coming through my living room. We'll see. If all the stars aligned, I've got at least 9 years, but it's more likely more than that. I mean, hopefully, the thing is, people talk about retirement and so what I have in mind is I'm going to retire from my primary career and then work something fun for longer, so, and if that's this, great. If it's something else, we'll see. But yeah.
So we got a star in the house. Was that Chris Gallagher that did that, or what's Chris?
I didn't catch Hobo's live stream last night, so I don't know. I'll have to find out more. But that's cool. That's cool. People are popping up and sharing things elsewhere. Rob's got a question. Do not have space or funds for a CO2 laser to cut clear acrylic. Was thinking about a Genmitsu Cubico as an alternative. Thoughts?
How big of stuff you wanting to cut? If you're wanting to do like earrings, yeah, it could work. The one thing that I will tell you with acrylic though is real small pieces, you're going to have to make sure you like use the super glue approach or whatever to it. And you're going to have to be careful not to break it when you start getting it loose from whatever you use to hold it in place. It'll cut acrylic with the right bit and the right settings. But like I said, my only thing would be once you get it cut, you're probably going to be using a like glue or something to hold it down, 2-sided tape. Pulling the tape off of intricate little pieces of acrylic can be challenging at times. So I wouldn't say it wouldn't work, but man, a CO2, even a cheap CO2 would be better.
It's you can definitely cut acrylic on a CNC, but it definitely takes a little bit of practice, takes the right bits to get it dialed in. I did that with some polycarbonate back in the day because I was trying to make some clear model airplane parts that were a little more durable than just straight acrylic. And boy, that was some material testing. And even then, every once in a while, it wouldn't extract the chips. It would heat up and it would just pull and it would mess. And that's where you appreciate a good dust boot or something to block the shards from becoming shrapnel. So
yeah. The thing I would probably look at is that machine that Steve's got over there now. It's not a K40 because K40s are a bit of a handle. It's what is it called? The Reno? Is that what they call it?
The Reno 45. You got about a 12 by 16-inch working area and a 45 watt CO2 tube.
Yeah, I think that would probably, for what you're talking about, you want. I think if you could just muster up the cabbage to get that one, I think you'd be fine. You could probably pull it off with a K40 or M40 or whatever, but those things are hit and miss. I mean, you may get a good one, you may not. But that Reno that he's got, I think that would actually be a good. If you've already got a market and you know what you're going to be selling, and it's going to be acrylic stuff, and you need that machine to make this specific thing, then I think you'd be fine, because if you're planning on selling it to make stuff, then hopefully you'll be making your money back as time goes.
Yeah. Otherwise, drive up here to South Central Minnesota, and I'll loan you an M40 to play with.
Yeah, go pick up Steve's 40 watt. Multicraft Neo says double-sided tape keeps getting mucking with my bits. If I run shallower, then it's a pain to get the pieces out of my CNC tips. Depending on what kind of material it is, if you can get by with a downcut bit when you're using that tape, that's your best bet, because what'll happen is that downcut bit is going to make the chips stick to that tape and kind of make it a little less sticky. But you just got to make sure you got the feeds and speeds right, or you're going to have a melted mess.
The other thing, the type of tape helps. If you're using like the X-Fasten woodworking tape, that stuff's great, but man, is it sticky, and a little bit thicker. Depending on your kind of your spoil board and the material you're holding down, I've gotten by with some of the lower tack, like carpet tape. It's a real, I can't remember it, but it's not as thick. It's not as gummy. That helps. Otherwise, get yourself some painter's tape and some CA glue. That tends to be far less gummy than most double-sided tapes.
So. I was fixing to say there's a glue for that, I'm sure. I was just fixing to say it. You said a glue.
It's a popular thing. Is the painter's tape and CA glue. Get yourself some accelerator. You put the glue on one side. And
when I do acrylic, that's typically what I end up going with. Is using the CA glue and the tape. So said he was using an upcut bit. Might need to try painter's tape. Yeah, if you're using an upcut bit too, it's going to pull that gum all the way up through your material. A compression bit will too. You kind of, to avoid that tape, either don't cut through it or use a down cut when you get close to it. That's my advice, because I've had the same problem. You start using a compression bit, and the edges of your material, basically, it rubs that glue all up and down the edges of it. I mean, or that tape. It can be a bit of a handful.
Mm-hmm.
Simple Simon says, have either of you been approached about the longer Nano Duo? Do you have an opinion on the longer brand? I actually did a review on the original Nano. It's been over a year ago. They was in Kickstarter when I did my review. They sent it to me, and then it disappeared. Nobody ever got one, and then it came back. Longer makes decent machines. I like the B4 that they make. I've got it right up there. It's a great 30 watt. I think that was a 40 watt. Yeah, that was a 40 watt. It's a great 40 watt machine. They have automatic air assist. They have all the things that you need to be successful with a laser of that power. So I don't have a problem with their brand. Their software was a little buggy back then. I didn't like it with the peripherals, like as far as like the tumblers. It had a conveyor and it had a rotary. I didn't like them with Lightburn with it. But as far as like straight up and down, just engraving machine, it works great. A buddy of mine that does cutting boards has it, and he puts his little maker's mark on the cutting boards that he builds with it. And he just run it off his phone using an app. And he just sets it on the cutting board and hits the button. And he just like, that's all he does. That's all he uses it for. He said every now and then he will do like a design or some kind of little custom engraving. But for the most part, he wanted it for marking his work product. And I talked to him the other day. He said still doing a really good job for him. So,
yeah,
it looks a lot like those LPs.
I agree with you. the only longer laser I have was the 20-watt version of that, the B4 20-watt, I believe, which is a decent laser. The only issue I had, because the earlier ones they had a air assist cone that was too big, but they fixed that. Looking at this one, I mean, it's a 20-watt blue diode and a 2-watt IR. I'll be honest, in that form factor, 20-watt blue diode is probably more than you really need. You can do a lot with a lot of that engraving with just a 10-watt variety, and that opens up. And since you're only getting a 2-watt IR, that puts you back down into the the LP3
F1.
and the F1, which is a good $600 less than it for. I think you're going to have all the same capability for it. Even the 20-watt blue diode in the F1 Ultra, I think, is overkill. It's nice having the 20-watt IR on that one, the fiber, but when you get into those power ratings, you don't need that much power to do the engraving, and the cutting ability of these is really reduced. I mean, it's nice that you can cut with them, but without having that air assist, it's kind of a messy cut, and it's a less efficient cut. So I look at them as primarily engraving machines, and I don't need that 20 watts of power on it. So depending on what you're wanting to do with it, there's some other options in that range that maybe save you some money.
Miss Sharon has a question. Said, can a CNC cut very thin aluminum? So she's trying to find something to cut blanks out for her daughter's artwork. And yes, you can. I will tell you, thin aluminum is going to be, the thicker aluminum is easier than thin aluminum. Just anytime you're dealing with a CNC, thicker material is easier than thinner material. And I know what you're going to say, so go ahead.
No, that was what I was going to say it is possible, but it's all about the material holding at that point. And depending on what you're wanting to do and how fine the detail is on it, is it possible? Yes, but you may find yourself being real frustrated with it.
Yes. With thin aluminum, like I said, you can cut it, but you've just, in my opinion, you're best to sandwich it between put it on top of a piece of 1/4-inch material or something, and maybe even sandwich it between 2 pieces of material if you're trying to cut it out. But if you try to do that with any repetitiveness, you're going to burn through some extra material, because that really thin material, if you don't use an O-flute or something with very minimal drag on the material, it'll pull it up, or it'll pop it up, bend it, whatever. Because the thinner materials are just, the force that it takes to hold it down and keep it from moving is generally enough that you're going to wind up bending it if you're not careful. So, but yeah, you can do it. Like I did a whole bunch of car tags for my buddy Tim, put the holes in car tags for him. Those worked out really nice, but I played with the settings until I got them exactly like it needed to be. But
comment is both use black and white logo colors. Is it strategic or just personal preference? It's easier. It's easier to put it in more mediums. Yes. Anytime you get into multicolor, it adds complexity. So if you wanted to engrave a multicolor logo on a laser, it may or may not come out okay, and you're going to have to spend more time playing how to make this one look lighter and that one look darker. If you're going to get it embroidered, or in some cases screen printed, it tends to cost more the more colors you have. So it's just easier to have it just straight up be black and white. And so yeah, it's a little bit strategic that way, I guess.
Yes, because if you're not careful, you'll get like some of the people in town, they have businesses, and they're like, hey, can you put my business logo on this? And I'm like, sure, send it to me. And I get it, and I'm like, dude, it's some AI generated, all 254 colors of the rainbow, faded and shaded. And it's I'm like, I can't make this look good like this. You should have thought about this when you designed that logo. Mine, I went with the fact that it was simple. It didn't look like nothing else I'd ever saw. And the black and white it contrasts. I do have, iterations of it where it's orange and black, or, whatever. But for the most part, black and white is the way you'll see it. But yeah, like Steve said, because you start trying to put your logo on stuff, you'll learn real quick. Certain images aren't great for that. So
I should see. I actually worked with someone to help me come up with a few different versions of mine. And this is kind of the one where we landed on. I really liked it. I'm not sure if I still have the others, but most of them I think were still, a black and white. Oh, yeah, I have a few of them. But yeah, mine is easily vectorized, the entire thing, and that was part of it. Is I didn't want something that was weird, a weird raster image that was hard to translate into other mediums.
What are we using? What are we using a flower press for? I didn't even know what a flower press was until I got asked to design one, and I designed this guy. What? Laser cut. It's got plywood, extra layers of actual plywood in there. But yeah, I've got one, but I'll never use it for nothing. I designed it as a prototype, and that was as far as it went. Well, my daughter's got the other one. I did another one out of oak. She wanted it, so she's got it.
Oh, trying to get caught up on comments without missing them, but
yeah, I don't know if that's gonna happen. Steve says on your CSCs, have you ever tried the wedge style to keep out of stable 1/2-inch PVC pipe into holes in the spoil board? I don't use the PVC pipe. No, I don't do that. But I do have. Let me see if it'll work. Well, you can't see it from over there. It's too far. I use these. These are 3D printed little dogs that go in my spoil board. And I can basically lay out a grid. I've got it to where I can put stuff in the middle, or if it's real wide. And I just stick these in the holes, and the material butts up against it. And I also have they're rough when you ain't used to reaching under somewhere. Trying to be careful, not cool. But I use these carbide 3D printable clamps, so that if I break one, I just print another one. We're using hardware. These little dogs here, and a lot of times now I've learned to love these things. These are like little slide clamps, basically from Rockler. The only time that I don't is if it's something that I've got the slightest inclination that the bit might be coming across this way. I'll try to make sure I position it outside of the moving area. But for the most part, I haven't had a problem with them yet, because these things here are not going to bulge. But yeah, these are pretty fun to have. The thicker material, the better. But here lately, I've just been using these clamps and my little dogs. Working out really well for me. And the old CA glue approach.
So this is a setup I use 90% of the time. It's got kind of I've got some corner pieces that I can put a stop in various areas on my board. And these are kind of like a cam clamp. So as you rotate it, it pushes in further. And then they generally will kind of friction lock in place when you have them on the two axes. And that works pretty well for a lot of this stuff for me. Occasionally, if I don't have a threaded insert in the right spot, I might add a wedge or even just like a thin piece of plywood to kind of fill the gap as well. But usually I have them spaced enough to where I can get these to work for me. So, and you can cut these all day. You just take some scrap plywood and cut them out. So,
like I said, I made some of those kind of like that, but I haven't used them as much. I got to have something that locks. I don't know what it is about that. I have a hard time trusting it.
You got to have those threaded inserts in there. It doesn't work as well on T-Track, and then they will eventually lock. So,
yeah. But I'm digging my setup the way I got it going right now.
Yeah. Jim's got a question that maybe you can speak to as well. What do you think is better, F1 Ultra or P2 for tumblers? Seems like Ultra is going to be faster. Setup for either seems to be a pain.
Well, I've done them on the Ultra. I've done them on the S1. I haven't done any on my P2 yet. I was waiting on this new RA2 to come in. Me personally, as far as the beam goes, I think I'm going to like the results from the CO2 better because I won't have to worry about the colors. That's what I'm trying to get away from. My problem that I have learned is that if you do tumblers, it's never going to fail that you're going to have to do different color tumblers. And I mean, they'll bring them over here like somebody dropped a bag of Skittles. Like you're going to have every color in the rainbow. And with a diode, the blue diodes are fine as long as you can test and come up with the right settings for every one that you do. The CO2s, however, because they're not, they're immune to the whole I can't see it or what color it is type thing. So they'll actually be able to remove the coating quicker and easier without risking marking the actual metal. That's what I'm looking for. I could do them all day long with the F1 Ultra, the Monport fiber. I can do them all day long with them, but I want a little bit more clean engraved than what I've been getting. And I ran my buddy Tim's Thunderbolt up at the trophy shop and did some tumblers with it. And the way that CO2 interacts with those tumblers is much better than what the diodes do as far as from a business perspective. Now, of course, if you can't afford I've done hundreds of tumblers with a blue diode, but now that I have a CO2, I want to start using it. And that's what I've been looking at is using the CO2 for my tumblers.
Yeah. I think it's going to be easier to line it up on the F1, but if you're going to be doing a lot of them, it's going to be worth figuring out some sort of fixture to get your rotary. But you're also going to need the riser for the P2 to really be able to do tumblers. Yep. So yeah, realistically for me doing tumblers, unfortunately I sold my other rotary. I need to get one for this OhmTech. Having that bigger kind of cabinet works really well for that. And then if you can, like I say, figure out some sort of fixed point to make sure it's square and in kind of a known spot, going with a CO2 beam any day is going to make your life easier on tumblers.
Yeah.
But it all comes up to being able to set it up and being able to kind of get them aligned and your logo oriented quickly. That's where the F1's kind of nice. With the RA2, they kind of have alignment lines on there. Place it here and it'll be in the line and then go into the software. But yeah, then you're going to be fighting the different colors and such.
Yeah, like I said, I think with the new rotary that they've got and a little bit of engineering, I think I'll be able to get the results that I want out of the P2. But we'll find out. Like I said, I've got the chuck in the house. I hadn't brought it out here yet, but I'm gonna put it on there and do some testing. I've got a couple of videos I've got to get done that I'm behind on, but I'll have it done before too long.
Yeah. Thanks. T. Paul Walker is asking, if your beam size is 0.008, why would you adjust your DPI either up or down to get better detail in an engraving like a photo? Well, just because the specified dot size, focus dot size says it is, 0.08 or 0.1 or wherever it lands at, doesn't mean that's how it's going to come out on the material. So you do need to do some testing per material to see where you are maximizing your DPI and where you're, either you're bleeding over or you're not getting enough. So anything that's fibrous and natural, you're centering it, and that might spread a little bit wider than your actual focus spot of your dot size. So a lot of it really just comes down to playing with your laser and your material to really dial in what is that line interval that works well, and get your DPI going that way.
Yeah, the one thing too, it would depend on, to me, what is the material that you're engraving, because even if you're doing tumblers, I defocus tumblers regardless. Any kind of stainless steel, I'm going to defocus it, because if not, you're going to wind up leaving etching marks in the material, in the tumbler itself. Even with a blue diode, if you don't adjust your focus correctly, you'll leave like some severe etching marks in the material.
Yep. So after you do a speed and power test to kind of get the quality of the engraving you want, it's also good to follow that up with an line interval test. And then some people will even do a dithering test on a few different modes to really see which one kind of does well. So depends on if you're doing a quick one-off where quality doesn't matter, or if you're going to be, setting up for a big run and you want the highest quality or that material, it's worth doing some playing on that. But a lot of people will kind of find, like you say, this is at the average, works pretty well. If they're doing vector engravings, they just kind of rock with it. If you're doing photorealistic, that's where you're probably going to spend more time with it.
Yeah. Travis, basically is, you can defocus a machine by bringing it down or bringing it up out of focus. The preferred method for me, of course, is to go up. That way you don't increase your chance of collisions. But what you basically, the focus of your machine is, we'll use this pencil, we'll use this pen. The beam basically is coming down kind of like this pen right here to a point. So if you lower or raise the beam, this is going to change the way it interacts with the surface of the material. Because if you go up with it, it's going to be wider when it gets to the material. Or if you go down with it, it's good. So I need to draw it. I ain't got a better draw it. So that's the biggest advantage is you can actually, because a lot of the mediums that you're going to be engraving on, you're not going to be able to like there's no need in being down to like a 0.008 necessarily for, like Steve said, for just a block font letter engrave. There's no need of it. So for the sake of time, you can actually raise your focus a little bit and tweak your settings, and you can get that text done twice as fast without
drawing. That's the beam.
I'm gonna let you use your illustration. I'm gonna let you use your own illustration.
Your laser beam isn't straight. It kind of comes into focus and out of focus like an hourglass. And so the idea is you're trying to get your material generally right in the middle of that. So if you defocus it, you're actually bringing the beam up or down to where, instead of hitting the exact focal point, it's going to be a little bit higher, where the beam isn't quite as focused. It's not going to be quite as harsh. So it's a good way to center it more than ablate it. And so that can have an effect on the shade of the engraving versus the depth of the engraving.
Yes, because the focus with a diode, especially, it dictates how much heat is generated on where you're engraving. And if you get it a little bit out of focus, you actually generate more surface heat than if you have it completely focused. And so that's why you get darker engraves a lot of times, by raising the focus out just a little bit, rather than just, you can try to slow it down all you want to. It's just going to dig deeper. It's not really going to get any darker, but you can pull it up a couple of millimeters, and a lot of times the surface will get darker. Valley Forged, Mr. Globetrotter himself.
Yeah, last I heard he was in Vietnam.
Yeah, he's just taking a tour over there for like 3 months. Well, take some lessons from him.
Yeah, but
get us some trips.
Yeah, so generally when you're defocusing, most people will raise it up, and so then that it's beyond that hourglass where it's coming back out of focus. And so, rule of thumb where I start with a lot of them is maybe about 3 millimeters, give or take. That's on diodes or CO2. On fibers and such, they go in and out of focus very quick.
Just to say it ain't that far. Yeah. The S1, I like running my S1 for tumblers. I like running about 2 to 3 millimeters high. Basically any machine that I'm running on tumblers, I'll run about 3 millimeters to 2.5, somewhere in that area, depending on the machine.
Now the inverse is true when cutting. Is I'll actually lower the beam so that as it kind of comes in and then back out, you're splitting that difference. So then you get some more efficient cut throughout it. Otherwise, your focus spot is on top, and the deeper it goes, the more out of focus that beam's getting. So you try to split the difference where your focus point would be in the middle of your material that you're cutting. So if you're cutting 6 millimeter material, you'd want to bring it down 3 so that your focus spot moves in the middle. So
Yeah.
defocusing, it's kind of just moving your focus spot.
Yeah, it's a rabbit hole. But it does help. Like with different materials, you get different effects.
Yep. Oh, have we run to the last comment?
I think I want to say we may probably missed some. So if we missed one and you've got a question, feel free to throw it back up there. I'm pretty sure we missed something along the way.
Well,
what you gonna say?
Hey, they didn't lose, but they've been doing pretty well in the free agent, picking up some people. So we'll see. Very much off season. Twins are, kicking it up down there in Florida for spring training. So I got other things. We'll see. But yeah, if we missed your question, go ahead and drop it down again. And we want to get to it. If you have a machine specific type of thing or light burn software type thing, drop them in there. We love helping people out during this live stream. Ryan says I don't have to worry. You're not a short timer until it's under 100.
Well, I'll be there before you know it. I'll be there before you know it.
Yeah. This is the year. I was gonna say this is the year of 25s for me because coming up in about not even a month, in about 3 weeks is my 25th wedding anniversary, and then
ooh, bless her heart.
In about 6 months is my 25th work anniversary.
We need to get her on one night and have her explain how she's managed to put up with you for this long.
Well, maybe, yeah. Well, and then we just need to have we'll have the wives. We'll have the wives live stream.
Oh no, we wouldn't ever be able to get back on here again. They'd run us out of town.
Can have people that we can have everybody asking them questions for the real answers of what makes Clack and Steve tick.
Well, hey, I will tell you this. Speaking of, as I saw where Ryan was talking about my retirement. Y'all do know I've already got a meet and greet set up with my friend May over at May Made It. In October, she's doing her Craft Acropolis event or something like that. I forgot what she's calling this one. But it'll be like October the 24th. And myself and a bunch of local folks are going to be there. So I'm going to be trying to put some stuff together. She asked me if I'd be willing to come to it. And I'm like, yeah, I'll come to it. I'm going to be retired. I won't, I shouldn't have anything get in my way. And she's like, oh, you're going to be retired. And I was like, well, yeah. She's like, congratulations, you're in charge of it. So I think basically what she done is she got me to do a whole bunch of free work for nothing. So if any of you are in the area or going to be in the area or want to make the trip or whatever, that might be a pretty interesting day. I think Jason and Brooke from Cog Hill are planning on going. There's a bunch of other channels in the area that some of you may or may not know, but that'll be my first official event as a retired full-time entrepreneur here at your shack. Hopefully.
Well, fun.
Yeah. I'm going to try not to do too good of a job because then may want to do it every year.
Yeah. That's what they say. If you don't like doing something, do a really poor job, and hopefully they'll never ask you to do it again.
Well, Steve must have slept through it, but he said, good job on Shop Talk podcast. I guess, I was on got to get on a podcast with Autodesk, the guys that make Fusion 360 and Tinkercad and those programs. And it was interesting when they first asked me about it. I'm like, I don't know why y'all want to talk to me, but I can talk, that's one thing the Lord blessed me with, the ability to talk for about an hour or two. So we just sat and talked about it. They asked me a bunch of questions. There was a lot more questions thrown at me than what made it to the final video, but I thought it worked out okay. I just told him that made me sound too much like a redneck because, sometimes like my redneck's a little thick.
Never.
Yes, sometimes.
No, never. Yeah, I linked that out. I dropped that link in the laser engraving community Facebook group for people to find it as well. So another good reason to join that group. Get little things like that.
Multi-Neo, the rough drawings from my enclosures are on my webpage, and I think we've got them in the Facebook group also. You can just download them there. I don't sell them or anything because it's literally just drawings. It ain't nothing too fancy.
Cool.
Sharon said she'd love to see Brandy and Carl on alive. Whew, that'd be dangerous.
I keep telling Carla we need to road trip. She needs to come down there with me because I think she'd enjoy the Alabama, the southern Appalachian foothill mountain area.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can we'll do a pop-up live with the wives. Live in the shack or something.
Jenny gonna tell on me. She thinks maybe has big plans for me future. She may have. I wouldn't put it past her. She may have.
She'd be like, like people have their work wives. She's going to become your retirement work wife. Keep you busy.
Yeah. Cornbread. It's about from the top of the honeycomb up to the camera is about 16 and a half, 17 inches. But there's a whole lot more to it. You just have to look at those plans. But it's big. It's like basically like a big workbox.
Mm-hmm. Jay Cloudfeather, I actually have a friend who ordered one. He hasn't told me it's come in yet, but hopefully when it does, I'm gonna hopefully hop over to his shop and check it out. Pretty cool device. Kind of Prusa stepping up to match, some of the later offerings from Bamboo and such. So, it's a little up there, but I mean, it's Prusa. If you're familiar with them, they are definitely a quality 3D printing machine. And company. But the kit alone is $950. So she's a little bit of an investment on that. But hopefully after he gets it built, maybe I can hop over there and do a little. I need to because he also just ordered a ComMarker 50 watt fiber as well. So I could maybe go tour another workshop, see some of his toys. But I mean, knowing the company, I wouldn't have a problem putting one of those in my shop if I was looking for a quality 3D printer right now.
Yeah. All right, I've got a mystery for you, Steve. I know we play this game pretty regular.
Do we?
Yep. It is the mystery package of the day. So here you'll notice that I have a package coming tomorrow. It's supposed to be here sometime between 1:15 and 4:15. Nobody in my house has ordered anything, but upon doing a little bit of digging into it, I have found that this tracking information comes back to Alibaba. So I'm not sure what we got coming, but it only weighs like 15 pounds, 11.8 pounds. So I'm not sure what this is. I'm really not certain. Maybe it's just some donated stuff that shows up. You know how it is sometimes. Stuff just shows up. You're like, where'd this come from? Because I wasn't expecting anything to be showing up. I've had a couple of companies reach out and ask me about stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, they weren't supposed to be sending me anything.
Yeah, it's always fun when you talk with them a bit and then they kind of go silent and then all of a sudden stuff shows up and then they're like, hey, you going to have this done yesterday?
Yeah.
So
it's a little over 11 pounds. So I don't know.
I mean, that could be anything.
Well, it could be
algo
laser.
Small. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been talking to Algo Laser, so I think it could be them because that little machine that they want me to look at, it's not very big.
Yeah, that little Acer micro machine I had. I mean, I think the shipping weight on that was under 5 pounds, so wouldn't be unreasonable for one of those
the next machine that I'm expecting to be showing up here is Algo Laser's little cube looking thing. It's basically their version of that. I wasn't going to take it, but they told me they would send me it and give me a coupon or code or whatever for another one. So I thought to myself, well, if you're going to give machines, if you give me 2 machines, I'll take the machines and then I'll do a giveaway and I'll give both of the machines away once I've run through them. So that's what I have planned for that. If that's what it is. So we'll see tomorrow sometime, I guess.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yep. Hour and 30 minutes, guys. If you haven't already, hit those buttons. And shameless plug. If you hadn't already, go hit that other channel over there too. I'm at 843 subscribers on my other little channel, and I can't get it to do nothing. I don't know how I got this other one to go. I just got lucky. That's what happens when you're actually trying to get one.
Popular content, I guess. The question is about making a homemade spray booth out of cardboard. Is there a concern using my inline exhaust? Like, does paint vented end up gumming up the fan blades? And I think a couple people mentioned this. I would build it with like furnace filters, kind of your first thing. Like if you're drawing the air at the back of the box, so you have the air kind of coming in around you and going that way, have your cutout with a furnace filter there. That's going to catch a lot of the overspray, because otherwise, yeah, anything that sucks into your vent system is going to start sticking to the walls and the fan blades and such. So I would put on that one, I would put some sort of filter on that. I've honestly done a real kind of, for lack of a better word, redneck thing where I just put a box fan on the back, where I tape a furnace filter to the back side of the fan, put that on that box, and then just that captures most of the overspray, and then I don't even really vent it anywhere else, just kind of in the shop. So you don't necessarily need to overthink that too much, but I would definitely put some sort of filter element there just to preserve your fan. So are my laser cover lenses coated? No, they are just straight glass. My thought on that is keep it simple, keep it clean, keep it cheap. The coatings initially can help keep them cleaner, but as you then use alcohol and clean them, it starts wearing off and such. And also, if it's not the right coating, you could be reducing your laser, output through that lens. So I just use straight glass, but I try to keep them cheap so that when they start going bad, it's not $30 to replace. It's a few dollars at most. And that's my theory with it anyway. And it's been working so far, but you got to keep up on that cleaning. So,
well, be careful over there, Eric.
Yeah.
Don't have too much fun.
Yeah, if I was in Vietnam, there's actually a model airplane manufacturer that I used to work with when I was doing R&D. I'd love to go visit their facility. They've got some pretty big lasers and CNC machines and other things. So
cool.
Oh. What else we got? Geofilament. I haven't heard of that. 26. That's quite the test.
Woo. That's a good bit of it.
I've used a lot of oh gosh, now I got to look back at some of the ones that I use. Of course, when I got my Bamboo, they gave me a bit of a credit to order a lot of their stuff. But I've used some Sunlu in both, well, in all the printers. And then there's the Overture is another one that I've used a fair amount of. Some Elegoo. And then usually it's like machine specific. So when I was testing that Cheedy, I bought some of their specific rapid filaments and such. But Overture has kind of been my generic one for two reasons. It's fairly affordable. Most 3D printers work with it well, and it's easily sourced through Amazon. Although there is a new 3D printing store. Well, they're not new. They're in town. They've been here for about a year or two. I should really check them out and see, because I think they stock stock filament, and I wouldn't mind supporting them if their prices are reasonable.
Multicraft's asking, can the sweepy tube be turned sideways so it doesn't jut out? I guess you're talking about on the Shipoko? Yeah, you could push it to the side. Oh, the bit set. Oh, if you're using the sweepy tube, you shouldn't have that problem because it attaches to the actual spindle and goes up and down with the spindle. It's the Sweepy Pro that has the problem of slamming. Because I've got the Sweepy 2.0 is on my my little Jinmitsu over there, but I've got the Sweepy Pro on the big machine. But yeah, the one that's on the smaller machine, you can rotate it either way if that's what you're talking about. Oh, this is the version 2 Sweepy. It comes with the 2 different parts like that. But this just clamps on the spindle or the router, whichever you may have. It just clamps on there. So you could actually put this on there however you want. There's a shoulder down here at the bottom of it that, like, so you could literally, whatever you adjust this to, you shouldn't be hitting it. But you could always move your bit setter if you're talking about a Shipoko 5, like I had to do. And I told them about it, but I guess they're gonna change the way they make machines. But this is the 2.0, I think. Pretty sure it is. Oh.
Yeah, dust boots are they're an interesting thing when you get into CNCs because depending on what you're looking for, what type of machine you're using, what type of work you're doing, people will tell you this one's the best or that one's the best. It kind of comes down to that. It depends a little bit on what works for you. So if you do get into CNC routers, that's one of the things that you'll probably eventually start playing around with. Is what works best for you, but it's very good to get that dialed in and have that dust collection, both for health, but also just the ease of running your machine, keeping dust off your machine, and not making a big mess of your shop.
Yeah, the setup I've got on mine, it works great. Now that I've actually got the bit setter fixed to where I can use it with it. I like it now. I don't know why they didn't take it upon themselves to do that instead of making me have to do it myself, but whatever. Matter of fact, I'll take this opportunity. We talked about it earlier. Let me see here. Well, that's good enough. All right, let me add another screen here. So there's the way I got mine set up with those dogs. I got holes up through here, across there. I got another set of holes across here, and I just move those to build my little pattern. So like right now, I've got it set up for doing those pizzas I was doing the other day because I cut about 8 or 10 of them in there. But with my dust boot, I use the Sweepy Pro, and so you can't use the bit setter in its old configuration. But I moved mine over here and sank it down below the spoil board, and it works now. So but you have to do that if you're not gonna if you're gonna run this boot right here, you got to do that, or else yes, you will have collisions. Unless you're just really good at remembering it, because I wasn't. So I thought I was going to tear the gantry off my machine.
Yeah, I'm got to be careful with that. Apparently, a lot of people liking the zero filament. Mark Patterson saying they got a really good multicolor. That can, if you've got decorative stuff or whatnot, that multicolor can be really fun to play around with.
But do they sell it in orange?
Well, it's multicolor. Then you get into the silk finish. You get some of those like flexible dragons and snakes and things like that that people seem to like. Yeah. Nice multicolor silk is fun to make those in. Greg's asking, has anyone upgraded their stepper motors on their CNC from NEMA 23 to stock or from stock 17s? I haven't on too many of mine. It's definitely a thing where you want to dig into the controller and make sure that they're going to be able to support the amperage, and then you're probably going to need to do some reconfiguration of the or recalibration, to your steps in your travel and such. But also depends on the type of CNC machine you have. You may or may not be able to take advantage of that extra torque from them on some of them. So it's going to be kind of one of those, depends on the machine, but definitely double check into the controller to make sure that it'll support the higher power draw on them. So
it just hit me. I think I know what that is. I may have checked out my Bamboo Labs the other day. Maybe some filament, now that y'all mentioned it.
Yeah, if it's coming from the East Coast, they usually ship out of New Jersey?
Yeah, I bet that's what it's going to be. That's probably what it's going to be. But it's showing up as the parent company for Alibaba or whatever.
Yeah,
but it's
some
probably
of them use the same fulfillment things. So.
I bet that's what it is, because I ran out of black PLA the other day.
I would figure you would run out of orange.
No, I was making the little computer mounts. Matter of fact, I didn't bring one in here. Did I? Yeah, I don't think I brought it in here. But I made me some computer mounts from my little miniature PC. I may have brought it. Put it over there. Hang on. Oh.
Bum, bum, bum.
See, there's my little bracket from my mountain. This mounts on the side of your on the wall or table or whatever. Mount your PC. Mounts up there like that. Bottom edges stick into these little places, and then it just raises up, snaps over it. All the cables are unobstructed. You got room to see the front. So I'm going to wind up putting this one. I'm going to wind up mounting that little computer on this over there when I get to where I can move around and do it. Right now, that's not really an option.
I'm not 100% sure where I got the file for mine. There's definitely some you can purchase on like Etsy and such, but if you search for CNC cam clamps, I'm pretty sure you'll find a couple places that have some styles that are free, like in an SVG format. I want to say I probably purchased the file because it was just easier than drawing them up. I think Ben Myers had a good set at the time out on Etsy. I'm not sure if he still has those, but
Carbide sells some 3D printed ones, or not sells it, but have 3D printed ones in their library to download.
Yeah, I mean, then you could probably extract the shape from there if you wanted to cut them out on a CNC. So I would rather make them out of plywood.
Yeah, it'd be stronger.
Stronger, yeah, and faster. They're pretty quick to cut out. But maybe I just need to design up a few and do a video on it and share it out that way too. If I ever dust off the CNC machine.
I seriously say that'd require you to use that CNC. I just don't know if you got it in.
I'm using it right now. Look, it's a perfect shelf. It's holding another CNC.
Mm. Yeah. CIS says Roto Boss or Power Burn. I have no idea. I do not have either. So I don't know.
I've only had experience briefly with Rotoboss, and it was a very nice piece of equipment. I can't really speak to pie burn. Either one is a hefty investment.
Well,
but I know the Rotoboss one that my buddy had. Once he got that kind of locked in place, dialed in, he was able to swap tumblers real quick. And of course, it was on a CO2 machine, and he was burning through tumblers really quick. So I know that one worked really well.
I forgot I have ran the Rotoboss at my buddy Tim's place up there, so I do have experience with that one, I guess, and it worked pretty well with the Thunder. Greg's asking how much of the computer, so I'm gonna drop a link. That's
well,
a
again,
little miniature PC.
If you want to drive to South Central Minnesota, my college campus store has some HP versions of them for sale. They're nice refurbished little units, and we'll get you set up real well. And you'll be supporting a nice community technical college where students go learn a trade.
Hey, put them on your Etsy shop.
I should buy them up.
Yeah, put them on your Etsy shop. These are refurbs, but I mean, it's a Optiplex 7050 with a quad i5 3.1 gigahertz speed, 16 gigs of RAM. It's got a 256 gig SSD with Windows 10 Pro.
Yeah, it sounds pretty close to those HPs we got. Yeah,
for $120, that's not bad. Throw in a wireless keyboard to TV and you're set. Yeah. And it does come with a keyboard and a mouse, but it's the corded version. So
I've got one. Of course, I haven't used that in a while, but that's on my 6050 Genmitsu. And then what I like to pair it with is this little wireless keyboard mouse. You got your trackpad for that, and then keyboard, and you can move it around. So
I've got that over there on my other computer as well as the Xbox controller.
Yeah. Sleepy Hollow. I mean, yeah, you gotta be mindful of the type of carve and the type of material you're using, or type of cut you're using. I generally am using a down cut or a compression bit, so the majority of the force is down on the material. If I am worried about it, sometimes I will double it up with maybe some double-sided tape in certain areas, or I'll even add a kind of one of those T-track Rockler kind of clamps or something that push down on the corners a little bit. But generally speaking, most of my forces are side to side on that, and not so much lifting, but it is something to be mindful of. So
yeah, work holding is very important. It's a self-correcting issue though. Cornbread. I don't know what you're talking about on that one. There's nothing really to protect. It gets dusty in there, but other than that, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not really following you on that one. There's a honeycomb. Then there's that big sheet of metal that goes under the honeycomb, and then there's the lift. And so the laser cannot get through that big sheet of aluminum that's on there. So as far as the laser actually interacting with the materials, it doesn't happen. And even if it did, it'd be so far out of focus by the time it made it down there that it wouldn't do much.
Cool. Norbert says he uses a mini PC for home automation. Yeah, they can be very handy for things. It's just when you get into like intensive graphic type things, they don't like it as much generally because cooling becomes an issue, or they just don't have quite the power. But for your average person, for consumption and internet browsing or running some small equipment, they are really nice. You can often just bolt them to the back of a monitor. They make little VESA mounts for that, or you can print something up if you've got a 3D printer. And they work nice.
Well, I got that one just to run my CNC with and keep over here. I can also run XCS if I need to or whatever with it. So when I went to get one for inside the house, I was like, little PC's done a pretty good job. I mean, I know it runs Lightburn okay and all that, but I actually designed that. This file right here, I actually designed this infusion on that machine. So it's probably not ideal. I'm sure it was probably struggling a few times when I went to, extruding some materials or whatever. But as far as the user interface, it worked fine. I didn't have any problems out of it. It didn't hang up on me or anything. So
yeah, I just wouldn't, try to edit video or
oh
render
no,
things and stuff like
yeah,
that.
video
Or
editing.
high-end video games. But like I say, the average computer use for a person, we've used them in kind of our general computing places, like our libraries and our hallways and things like that. So
it's a little slower on the video editing because I've edited those few clips that I've put out here in the past week or so. I've done on that machine too. It'll do it, but it's you don't want to be doing nothing else while it's processing video. You just need to like walk away from it and go get a glass of tea because it's gonna take it a minute.
Yep.
But I did get my gaming laptop back going, so I have it if I get to needing something with processing power. I'm kind of saving it. I've got it in reserve right now because it scared me that I was fixing to have to buy another expensive laptop. But luckily, the $40-something battery fixed it right up.
It's good. Yeah, I need to order a couple new hard drives, both for my desktop machine down in my office and probably my my laptop, just because as much as I try to keep things organized and moved around, it seems like I end up installing too many applications and that primary drive just fills up too much. So it'd be a good time to rebuild each one of them too. So
hey, I'll tell you something I did learn. I think pretty sure it's Samsung SSDs. They have the best by far. Make sure it's Samsung upgrade possible because basically you boot this thing, it ghosts itself. It ghosts the image to itself, and then you just take them physically swap the hard drives. It was easy.
Nice.
Pretty sure it was Samsung. It's my main SSD in this computer here. Let me see what I got. Properties. Hardware. Yeah, Samsung SSD, 2 terabyte.
Yeah, I think I'm still rocking a 500 meg or about 500 gig, 500 meg. Wow, that's old. 500 gig drive in my primary drive in the laptop. I did add a secondary, I think, gig drive for data and some other things, but.
Yeah, I've got the SSD 870 Evo 2 terabyte is what my C drive is on this machine. And then I've got another drive that I save video to when I'm working with it. That's also a SSD because the exchange rates on those things are a lot faster. This bin drive.
Cool.
So trying to get every little bit of juice I can out of this old machine before I have to kill it, as it is on its last leg.
Well, we are coming up close to 2 hours, and you look like maybe you're feeling my meds is wearing off. So, last call for any questions, but as usual, everybody, make sure you're following both channels. There should be links to each of ours down below each channel,
and the other one too.
And if you want, go look up the Clackleys on YouTube. There's linked earlier. Some cool behind the scenes stuff that David's got going, and in the future,
it's gonna get better.
Some non-workshop stuff, but some fun things if you want to follow more there. I don't have time for a second channel right now. I'm just struggling to keep this one going.
I am preparing for retirement, man. I gotta get this because a lot of the stuff at like my shop build, that's probably gonna be on the other channel. I may tease and show some stuff on this channel, but I'm gonna try to keep the other channel. If it happens outside of this shop, it's going to go on the other channel. That's, until I get it built, of course, and I'm at the move. But yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm just trying to figure out, I'm trying to get it to where if folks want to see this versus this, they know where to go. You ain't got to pick through it and, look at a video and go, oh, I don't like that. Swipe away. I'd rather, over here, this is what you're going to get. Over here, this is what you're going to get. So that's kind of the way I've got that laid out. And I think it's going to work out in the long run. It's just, getting it started has been a booger. When I first started it, I hurt my knee and couldn't do nothing for a while. And now it's just one thing after another.
But
the good news is 199 days.
If you want to drop the link to that other one, it's the Clackleys is the name of it. Check it out. Help get them. We got to get him to over 1,000 subs, and then he's got to put out the content and get the view time up there, so he can
Yeah,
get
because view time
motivated
does
for
me
more.
no good until I get my subscribers up there.
Well, I mean, both you got to be building both, but
Yeah, I'm not leaning heavy in it right now because one, I haven't been able to. When I start doing like we're fixing to get the garden going and stuff like that, there's going to be some stuff coming into there. But for the moment, it's just a little bit of a blog for the moment.
yeah. So
Let's see if I can find it. Here we go.
But yeah, I'm going to be continuing to work with the Omni One. I'm trying to run through a gamut of different materials and drop the settings and everything in there for people to get a good idea of that it, like they say, it's a cold burn laser. It works on so many materials. It's hard to hit everything. But I'm trying to hit some stuff that maybe hasn't been in some of the other videos that are out there. So I'll have that one coming out. Like I say, I've got a project, a mix of projects, but I also, as I try to not get inundated with equipment because it tends to slow down and I don't like to oversaturate with that, but I do have some other pieces of equipment coming in to share as well. But looking forward to spring, getting out here a little bit more. It's starting to warm up a little more. I'll feel like I can exhaust air out of here without losing all my heat. So hopefully more coming that way. And
you still running heat up there? We already got the air conditioners on.
Yeah, I got my heater running today. It was we're in the roller coaster season, so it got up to 70 something the other day, and then we got snow over. I woke up yesterday. Was it yesterday to snow? And today it got back up into the 40s, but I'm running the heat here. I still have a little extra fuel for it, so I figured why not. Actually, I have it up. It's getting a little toasty in here because it's about 70 degrees. But like tomorrow, yeah, it's going to be back up into the 60s, and then they also tell us we may get snow again on Wednesday. So we're in that roller coaster part, but it'll quickly jump right over into where I'll be wishing I had cooling out here, but that's easier to deal with.
Well, luckily I've got mine, but yeah, there's going to be a lot coming. The only machines that I've got to do a follow up on the Atom Stack. I want to do some more material testing now that it's kind of gotten out there. I've got a couple of videos I'm going to do with the X tool because the OhmTech was doing me a pretty decent job, but I said I'm on that hunt for the perfect tumbler engrave, and I love the way my S1 does it. So I'm thinking I never really tried it as much with the P2, so that's what I'm gonna go for now, is trying to master tumblers on the P2 because I do like the P2. It just wasn't really like, it wasn't quite hitting it as the way I wanted it to. But then I got the Atom Stack in. It done okay. It would do okay on tumblers. But I do actually want to at least keep one X tool in the shop, because if I can get this P2 to do my tumblers, I can clear out some space and put my S1 somewhere else and clear me up a good little bit of space. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm trying to find out how to get some more space out of this shop.
Well, you should got to move some of that stuff to the basement workshop like I do.
Well, I don't have a basement workshop. I don't have. You've got 3 shops. Like, you got 3 different places that you can work. You've got your office, your basement, and your shop. I only got one. It's out here. And I share it with cats.
I mean, there's less and less. There's a little bit of shared space out here, but mostly the stuff out here is mine. The office is also quasi shared space. We've got some, exercise equipment and other things in there and some storage. And then the basement workshop is the old, we used to, when the house was built, it had a coal chute because it had a coal fired furnace. And so half of my shop down there used to be a coal room. And so no one wants to do anything with that. So I cleaned it all up, moved some things out and carved out some space. So,
Yeah.
I'm lucky to have that, but it's just, it's a space that no one wanted to do anything with. So, but yeah, you never have enough space, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Simple Simon said, I've only got 8 videos. You want people to subscribe. Well, of course I do. It's coming. There was a time that this channel only had no videos. Seriously. There was a time I had 0 videos. There was a time I only had 100. I got way more than that now. Hey, there's going to be when I retire, I'm going to take to the open road. I'm going to drive up to Menards and stop in for a pizza and go visit Steve, and we're going to eat some of that soap fish, whatever they've got up there.
I mean, since you like chicken livers, you might actually like lutefisk. I won't touch the stuff, so you're on your own there.
Well, but there will probably be a travel video, the first little while after I retire. I may not do it in October though, because I hear the weather up there gets kind of rough in October sometimes.
Sounds like May May's got you busy in October anyway. So
yeah, it'll probably be closer to like I don't know June. When I go up there to get away from the heat.
It might be a little too late.
It can't be that hot up there. It can't be.
I'll let you eat your words when you get up here.
All right. Well, I'm gonna let y'all get off of here, and I'm gonna go inside and take my meds and get ready for another night of trying to sleep, but I can't because I can't get comfortable. So,
all right. Well, thanks everyone. We'll be, like I said, we'll see how Clack recovers. I'll hopefully have some stuff out this week, but otherwise we'll be back here next Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time. Thanks everyone for stopping by, and yeah, hit that like button on the way out, and go make sure you subscribe to everything appropriate, and we'll see you around.
Later.